So I am just so excited to be here to meet you and this amazing space. The colors are it's so you. I was like, okay, yeah, this is exactly how I imagined it would be. Tell me, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah. I have this quote that is mine, and just since you mentioned colors, it says, bury me in my colors under a wise oak, and I will come back a butterfly nestled in an oak. And I share that because it captures a lot my poetic spirit, my love of colors, my love of butterflies and oak trees, and just of the unexpected, just this extraordinary that is at the same time everyday life. So who I am is a woman that is navigating the extraordinary that exists within myself and looking to share that with the world and looking to support women in their journey of tapping into the extraordinary that is within all of us and knowing that that's the best we have to offer. That's our butterfly, it's our wings, it's how we show up, it's our colors. So I'm the founder of an organization called She Roars, stands for Reimagining Our Africa Rising. And She Roars is an organization that holds space for women to show up to their full potential, to their full power, to the reason that they're in this earth for.
You gave a TED Talk where you talked about our limiting beliefs, our mindsets.
So my introduction was all about the languages that I speak. But I'll start from there. I used to think that I was not good with languages. Why, you might ask? Well, it started in secondary school, first day of French class. My French teacher had transferred from King's College. I was at Queen's College in Lagos. And she had been teacher to my brother, who she adored. And she came and she looked at me and said, I hope you like your brother. I hope you like your brother. He was so amazing. And somehow I could tell that she found me lacking. She punctuated this sentiment with a slap across my face. Why? Because according to her, I was making noise. I maintained that I was just asking my friend, my seatmate, to give me her pencil sharpener. The little girl in me concluded that she was right, and there was somewhere I couldn't compare, and I wasn't good. So all throughout secondary school, I failed French. And mind you, I was not an F student. I managed, but French, I always failed.
Tell me about that and tell me how you came to this realization, to you being you.
So a lot of the things that I share come from my own personal experience. I know that I've been developing a very intimate relationship with the word unlearning the things that I've held as true about myself, the things that I've held as true about who I'm meant to be, how I'm meant to show up. And the unlearning is really to step back and ask that question, who am I? Who am I? And how do I want to be in this world that is removed from others' definition of me, right? So that talk was really an expression of my own experience of life and fifth child in a family of 6 children with a lot of expectations. And those expectations became that I put upon myself, and for better or for worse. And ultimately, the society that I grew up in, its expectations on its women, expectations on how you're meant to be as a woman, how you're meant to be as a person. So ultimately, that TED Talk was really going into a space of saying, I've learned to let go of definitions and going back to a blank slate and like, what are my colors? How do I show up? How can I show up in a way that is true to me and not true to how people want me to be or true to how people think I should be, etc. And I know there's a quote that you shared in your TED Talk that I loved. that was along the lines of, I'm not who people tell me I am. I'm not who I think I am, but
I'm who I think you think I think I am. I
There you
haven't given a TED talk yet.
Yeah,
but
there was a talk that
It was
you
a
gave
talk,
that
yeah.
was like TED Talk form. But that's just to say that there's just such an influence of society and environment and people that we're around have on us. And we take it on as our own identity. But how can we shed? And how can you reach a place where you can reclaim your own true self? And in reclaiming, form a relationship that is a nurturing one for where you're going and not one that is perhaps judging yourself where you're at, where you should be, because that's where I should be. And really a voice that becomes a little bit more gentle. This is where I'm at. This is how I am. And should I want to be somewhere different? Okay. What does that place look like? And is that truly the place that I need to be for myself? So that talk was really about stepping back, reclaiming, and charting the way forward. That is the fullness of your potential.
So you talked about your siblings. You're one of 6 children. So let's start actually at the very beginning.
Okay.
And you're growing up. So you're from Nigeria.
Yes.
Tell me about your childhood. What was it like? And what was it like growing up in a household of 6 of you, 5 siblings who you have like 3 siblings who are physicians. You have like, you're all like very high achievers. So what was that like growing up? What was your childhood like?
So I was I have a strong personality, which does not always marry well with being the 5th of 6 people with strong personalities. So there's this childhood picture we have that my sister actually made a painting of. She's an artist. And you see my head like literally pushing my way out to be seen because everybody's like all crowded together. We're all wearing matching dresses. And I'm like, look at me. I'm here. See me. And of course, my head is completely shaven because my father didn't believe in girls having hair because it would distract us. And all I wanted to do was have hair. And now I can have hair. And so my childhood was very much the word you use. Like my parents were, my father's a doctor, my mother was a pharmacist, and pushing for us to have a better life than they did and really have the best potential possible. So they believed that was education. That was, coming first, not second, because that's not good enough. So that was my childhood. Be better, be the best. And I had siblings that were the best. So when I talk about the pressures were very real for me because I had a sense of always needing to be better and be more, and never a sense of satisfaction with being. And my greatest childhood accomplishment after the devastation of not becoming toilet captain in secondary school. It was heartbreaking.
Important things.
It was massively important because toilet captain can become head girl, and I wanted to be head girl.
You had to be head girl. Have the different blazer.
My sister was, and the others were prefects and house captains, and I couldn't be nothing. So I became head girl.
And so how then did you evolve from this child who felt the need to be heard to this woman who is now just very at peace with the world?
That's a beautiful question. It's been a long journey. And I think the break up with the past started when I was 17. Before I started undergrad, I went to study French in Vichy in France. And it was the first time being abroad in a different context than being with my whole family in the States on maybe a summer vacation or what have you. And that blew my mind because I was alone. And I was free to be myself and reinvent myself with a group of people that I didn't know. I didn't have to be anybody. I didn't have to show up in any way. And, I learned that I like cheese. I learned that things that I just like, ew, cheese, no, you don't do that. And all of that. I started opening my mind to things that were not within the spectrum of my reality. And I learned French. I didn't know I was good with languages. I had shared that, and that was when I came back 2 months later speaking French, and I had to drop that identity of being terrible with languages and embrace a new one. So that was like the moment of realizing that I could be more. that I wasn't set in stone. On the contrary. So the next years were just spent exploring, and traveling became a core part of that. And so ended up studying abroad in France, living in Berlin. After I graduated, moving to Beijing after that, moving to Bologna in Italy after Beijing for my master's, moving to DC, moving back to Nigeria as a homecoming in my late 20s, early 30s, late 20s, moved back to Nigeria, and I was home because I felt I wanted to bring all that I'd been learning the past years, very conscious I'd been a learning journey, and bring it all back home. And because at the core, since I was a little girl, I wanted to make my home better. I wanted to be part of a Renaissance story. And I came back, and it was a rude awakening because nobody wanted me to be part of the story. It was a nightmare work situation, but I grew so much through that.
Why do you think that was?
I think I was in an environment that, truth be told, I struggled with female colleagues. And my theory from that, having reflected a lot on that experience, is that they were going through their own personal challenges, and we don't, or they didn't have a space to nurture them to the point that we didn't have to get in a space where it was one either or, you on top, me at the bottom. There was enough for everybody, but the culture was so competitive, and we were so few of us, and life is such a struggle in Lagos, that put all of that together. I think you had us all together struggling, no space to heal, and being pitted against each other. So what came out were claws, and theirs were longer and sharper because I was junior. At least that's how I experienced it. And it was painful, but it was massively important for me to experience, because I also got to know that I wasn't infallible I didn't have my boundaries yet, right? Because things that happened couldn't happen to me today, because I learned the importance of putting up your boundaries. Then when people say things to you that are not appropriate, to be able to say, that's not okay. We can work together, but you can be more senior, but there are boundaries. And I didn't have that then, because I had all my life I'd been wanting to please people and to show up in a way that no one takes offense. And I would suffer in the midst of that. So I suffered greatly because I had no language to speak up for myself, even though I was strong. I hadn't learned to be strong in a situation that disempowered me, literally. And that was an important lesson, because I learned very much after that to always seize my own power, especially in spaces that want to take it away from you, that then you're the only one that can really speak up, and it's not to be found in complaining afterwards, that it's really to be found in stepping into your intuition, that it's not okay to talk to me in a certain way, it's not okay to treat me in a certain way. So that was that, and the rest has been a history of really deepening my exploration of self and going on many journeys that has led me to where I am today, which is a space of being deeply in tune with my inner voice, with my intuition, with my true self, and knowing that whatever is going on here reflects on the outside, and that's what I attract. So becoming really conscious of what's going on, where I'm at, where I am in my mind, in my creation, in my fears, in my inspiration, in all of it matters, and it starts within and it extends without.
Now, you're a writer.
Yes.
And I've read some of your stuff. So beautiful. There's something that you wrote that I really love. It's in a piece called Freedom That Comes With Permission. And there's a line where you said, Georgina is not aware that in giving herself permission to be, she was unwittingly giving another to do the same.
Oh, wow.
What is it you're giving yourself permission to be?
Free. And the story behind that about 5 years ago now. I had a coach in Geneva as part of my leadership training program. I was working at the World Economic Forum, and
you're a World Economic Forum fellow.
I am.
Right.
I am. And this coach is we're just talking, it's like, share your story. And at the end, she gives me my values, and circled a lot was the word freedom. And she's like, freedom is big for you, and at the same time, it ranks so low on where you're at. Because I was tied to a lot of things that I had to do and places I had to be and how I had to be, at least in my mind, perhaps even more than the environment. And I was, at the same time, all I wanted to do was be free to be where I want to be, meet the people I want to meet, have the space to do the things I want to do, and be free in my mind and be free in my expressive expression. Even the writing you're reading, I started writing to be read, I think just 2 years ago. I never wrote publicly before, and I only wrote academic journals and, very, very serious writings for publication in magazines and newspapers, but never just sharing. So I've been on a journey of freeing myself, and that unlearning is part of it, freeing myself to who I am and the ways that I show up. And that has meant leaving a job in Geneva, a really great space that nurtured me a lot, leading the Global Shapers community across Africa and the Middle East. Free myself to write the way that comes to me. Free myself to dream, to really start manifesting. I collage my dreams. I put it out there. I'm very conscious of dreaming and just being free to create whatever I can think of. And it was interesting because I was mentoring a woman recently, and she was like, I really admire how free you are. That's what attracts me to you. And it hit me like, I'm free. And someone has seen that in me, and it was an aspiration. And to know that as she took it, it was always there. She's free. But it's important that for me that I share always that it's a journey. And that's why I share my journey. That's to give you permission to also go on your own journey, because it doesn't happen overnight. I free myself every day. I wake up and there's always something to free myself from, right? The insecurities, the doubts, the questions, the fear, the space, whatever that looks like in that day, in that moment, I keep working through it, because it's my journey of freeing myself to be who it is that I'm meant to be and do the work that I'm on this earth to do.
What do you think is the work that you're on this earth to do? What do you think is your purpose?
My purpose, as I see it now, because I've also experienced that it keeps evolving, is to support women on their journey of emancipating themselves and their power, and knowing that now more than ever, the world and our continent, because I work a lot with women of African descent, it needs us and needs the power and the sensitivity and sensibility that women bring to the table. And through my own experience of myself and how much more powerful I am and have become by connecting to myself and my femininity and my truth of all that is, that there's magic there. So my purpose is to birth that magic in my own life, and to create and hold space for women to do the same for themselves. And it's the magic that will heal the world.
So She Roars is a part of that magic that you're trying to create and to put out into the world and to support women. How did that idea come about, or how did you come to that?
My name is Chidiogo Akunyili, and I'm the founder of She Roars, which stands for Reimagining Our Africa Rising. Here at She Roars, we believe that every woman has a right to fulfill their dreams. Here at She Roars, we facilitate space where women can liberate themselves, and in so doing, liberate everybody else around them. We women are the creators of the future, and now more than ever, our roar is needed. So roar with us at She Roars Africa.
I was in Peru, a retreat, got a calling to let go, to really just like trust and free fall. And that was the beginning of a long journey of letting go of a job that had been all my life. I've worked maybe 13 years, the UN, at, just consultancies all around the world in a very career-driven space. And to have this calling to try something different. It's like, but which job, which position, which country, where, and to sort of experience that it could be something different. And that was the inspiration to step back and write a book, the story of my mom. And in that space of stepping back, I got invited to facilitate a conference, a 300 women gathering in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. It's called Women Advance in Africa. And in that conference, before I went in, I was like, can we have a conscious space? Can we introduce meditation? We're like, yeah. So in the morning, we'll start the conference with just like tuning in. Where am I at? Close your eyes, hold your sister, connect. We really brought in like the space that she like kind of feel. We brought it into this conference. So what happened was that we became all like so connected so quickly because it was all women, maybe a sprinkle of men, but all women. And there was a lot of vulnerability. People opened up, CEOs sharing openly about pain, personal, professional, people crying on stage, sharing about the struggles they'd been through, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and the list went on. And holding that space for a 3-day conference, really having people come to me in the side and open up with a 60-year-old woman crying because she feels heard and she needed to be heard and to have someone to talk to. And that was when it hit me that we were so focused on, and that's so important as well, this professional development space, because the purpose of the conference was empowering women in the professional setting. We need more female leaders. There's evidence showing the power that is in that, having women in a high levels and in any levels really in a professional environment. But ultimately, I felt that we were lacking, or we needed even more spaces that could speak to the heart, where you could let it all out, like let go of all of that and just be, right? Give each other permission to be, to cry, to hug, to know that you're not alone, to know that the pain that you feel is shared, and that it's all what we're fighting against, right? Is how much we're carrying on our shoulders and how much that weighs us down as women, and how the wings, like, it's like so much we're capable of. So how do we free ourselves from all the burden? And while the world and the community, the environment can do that for us by empowering the spaces we can occupy, how do we learn to do that for our own selves? And I know that my journey has been in learning from other women, learning from spaces that have held me. So that was the inspiration and the birth of She Roars, creating space for women to connect to the power that they have. And part of your power is your pain. It's your trauma, it's the scars. It's all part of the thing that makes you so strong. So how do you connect to all of that? Heal it, and from that space of connection and healing and knowing of what is going on, how I feel, and the insecurities, the question, come into a space of balance that allows an unfolding of everything else that will come after, because it starts with you.
So from a practical perspective,
yes,
what does She Roars look like? What kind of events do you put on? How do women access?
Yes. From a practical perspective, I just moved to Toronto. So in a city like this, looking to host a She Roars workshop. We do workshops. We host seminars, workshops, and we get invited to gatherings around the world. I've done a few women gathering where we bring She Roars elements and hold workshops on side by side what's going on, as well as create and hold space wherever I find myself, wherever my team brings me to. So that has looked like workshops in New York, in Lagos, in Abuja, in Marrakesh, in in Dar es Salaam, etc. Really spaces that that are curated. And it's usually about 30 women. We've had up to 300 women. That's kind of the spectrum, but I would say average is about 30 women. We like to keep it intimate, and we share. We write letters, we explore deep insecurities, we explore tools that help us to revisit the things that are going on and grow every day, in a way that we can become our own best friends, that our own guide, our own guide, and at the same time we create community, right? Because when we bring these women together, we continue the conversation, and they have in each other a support network. Because once you're vulnerable and seen in a space, it's a lot easier to go back to the women that you've been with, that you've showed yourself to, and share where you're at, what you're struggling with, and move away from a sense of having it all figured out and being alone, right? Because a big danger that is with successful women, a lot of the women we work with are middle-aged, young, professional women that are often alone wherever they are. At the top is lonely. So it's how do you start creating a support network that can see you through that personal journey that is needed to be strong in your professional development and in the way that you give back to the world.
But that's a scary space to be, right? In terms of allowing yourself to be vulnerable, because there's so much judgment. People are sharing incredibly personal things. How do you get people to feel comfortable and trust? Because I think that's one of the big things that as women we have, because I think we've all had that experience where you shared something with someone you thought you could trust and then heard it from 20 other people. So that's always, I think, part of why we build these walls.
We really do, don't we? Well, there are many ways we do that. I also love to hear how you do it, because you create spaces for women to feel comfortable and share. How the way that I've seen work and the work that we do as She Roars is, first of all, we start with setting an intention. We literally hold hands, like we in a circle. That's like there's something about circles and women that truly is powerful. So we're in a circle and we hold hands, and everybody sets the intention of what they want, because you've given your time. We all know that's our most valuable asset. You're here. You're drawn into the message of what it is we're trying to do. So what's your intention? What you want to leave with? Because the mind is powerful. So when everybody's intention goes into that space of what they want, there is something there. Then we go into exercises, and the list is quite long, but I'm happy to share a few where we're consciously breaking down those barriers, right? And some of them is movement. Some of them is breathing. Some of them was looking into each other's eyes, not speaking, just like such a simple tool to look into another's eyes and to connect to the truth of who they are. And then, for example, I look into your eyes for whatever amount of time, and without speaking, now we've not met, and then you get to tell me what you see, right? Exercises that just people want to be seen, and sometimes we don't know what people are seeing, and we're so afraid of what people think, that it's always such a warm surprise to be seen and to know that people always see the beauty. People always see the grace, whatever it is that is your unique aura. They see it, and on that level, you just already you're drawn into a space. Right? And then, we get you to go into your own space, right? Because it's not always about the other, it's about you. Do you even know how to break the walls down for yourself, right? Because you don't have to share anything, but share with yourself. So we do a lot of writing exercises, right? And then let's say you're writing a letter to an unborn child that you have and you can't be there, you will realize the depth of the wisdom you have. So it's not telling you how to be, and it's for you to hear your own voice and your own wisdom, and to actually know that it's always been there, right? Because if I were to ask you to give an advice to your child, you won't be around, and that child needs to hear your voice. There's so much you have to share. So how do you go into that space of knowing you have something to give? It's not a passive space of taking and then, okay, now I know this. And it's to connect to that which already is. And to the extent that you want to share what's going on, you share. And if you don't want to, you don't, right? So you find that people open up because we want to open up, because I think that that women, we thrive in spaces where we can share. And I've never once come across a situation where that space is abused, because it's such a sacred one in some ways. The feedback has been always, why don't we have more of this? I need more of this space, and I'm going to be back again and again. So that brings us to the dream of how do we expand in a way that people can own She-Roar's spaces, that they can create those spaces, and we share the tools that we use to allow women to feel into their vulnerability and to find strength in it. Yeah.
What's your vision, or what's your big dream for She-Roars?
I would love to meet with Oprah. And she's coming to Toronto next month, so we're working on that.
Calling her people?
You know,
your people are calling her people.
Talking to someone who knows, think deep back, and it's just like I'm dreaming it. So I mentioned I'm a dreamer. So my dreams are always, I try now to really just step back and be very clear on what it is. And that dream right now is we need to expand. We need to plug into people and spaces that do that already so well, right? Because the quote that I live by is, to go fast, you go alone. You go far, to go far, you go together. I'll say that again. To go fast, you go alone. To go far, you go together, right? And I want to go far, because the work that I want to do is to reach every woman that needs that support, wherever she is, well beyond the continent, right? And it can be done alone, and it can be done in silo. So meeting you is part of that dream. What we're doing here is part of that dream. The work that you do in storytelling and in mindset and shifting the narrative is very much part of that dream. So plugging into you, plugging into an Oprah, plugging into a city like Toronto that has incredible women doing incredible work, and really just spreading, tapping in, and reaching as many women as possible in spaces that will grow in size, grow in reach, and be very diversified from me. Can I put it that way? So I don't have to ever be at the center, but the energy that goes into it is very much a conscious one, and everyone that comes into to run She-Roar seminars feeds and is fed by this energy of conscious space that starts with your own space that you've created, or you're creating for yourself and nurturing for yourself, and how that supports all the women that you bring into the space and that you support. So concretely, it's meet Oprah at the TIFF. Let her know of the work that we're doing and how much it's needed on the African continent. Get financial support and Oprah magic on it, and expand. And part of that expansion story is I'm writing a novel that is the story of my mother. And she was a larger-than-life woman for myself and for millions of Nigerians. And she lived a larger-than-life life and meant so much to so many people. A part of my book.
I have to say this. When you say that my mother's life impacted millions of Nigerian people, that is no understatement. I know that, and we'll talk some more about your mom, but this is what the former Nigerian president said when your mother passed. He said that this was a woman of integrity and character. That to have a former president say that is an unbelievable thing. And something else that was so beautiful that I read, a tribute that your father paid to your mother she was speaking at the university that she was a lecturer at, and he said that he described your mother as a light to the nation. He said, wherever we find ourselves, let's try and be little Dora. Let us have courage to say the truth at all times to enthrone a better society.
Wow.
So with that,
Wow.
For anybody who doesn't know who your mother was, tell us about the woman that was your mom.
So I didn't know that quote from my father, and the book that I'm writing on is called Light of a Nation. So I feel like I almost want to read a chapter and telling you about my mom, but may I do that?
You absolutely can do whatever you want to do.
I'm writing the story, so where's my computer?
While you're getting situated there and finding it, there are so many beautiful things that I read that people wrote, that people said. Even I know when she was ill, and you can tell us more about her and you know how she eventually passed, that people were literally going to the hospital to stand outside to pray for your mother. And this was something else that I read that I think it was your father wrote on because your mom passed away, I think, about less than a month before her 60th birthday. And so on what would have been her 60th birthday, your father wrote, "Your life was an enduring legacy of truth, courage, integrity, love of your country, pursuit of excellence, love of your family and friends, and total devotion to God." And I thought, wow, what a beautiful tribute. So why don't you tell us
those things with me? Let's see. So I mentioned I'm writing. I'll just read this paragraph. Her name is Dora Akunyili. They called her Amazon. Her life is a story of strength arising from the ashes of struggles. The deeper her scars, the stauncher was her fight and spirit of justice and truth. So next time you imagine the spear-waving, iron-clad, stern-faced warrior, see instead the smiling face adorned with colorful ichafo, her head tie that doubled as armor against the bullet that grazed her scalp during an attempted assassination. Her spear, her relentless fight, for she had an evangelical dedication to doing what was right. Her passion spilling forth from the pain of the loss of a sister to fake insulin. She slayed real-life dragons, the likes of Nestle and Dangote come to mind. Individuals and conglomerates making profits on the back of the loss of human lives. Many know the stories of the wars, of her scars, and of the Amazon that wielded the sword of justice on the battlefields of annihilating fake and substandard foods. She was a warrior, and the entire country held her as such. Joan of Arc, Queen Amina, Princess Diana, Mandela, we had our very own Dora. Her last public act in the service of Nigeria was at the National Confab, where she engaged in charting the agenda for the future of Nigeria. At Confab, she uttered words which unknown to her were to be her last public ones, saying, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." She was neither old nor a man, but she planted a big tree to usher in the future we desire, a tree which shades a nation. These are its fruits.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now tell us who your mother was and how it is that she came to impact literally millions of people's lives.
Okay, so the story goes that she went to the UK for an operation, and it was sponsored by the government because of her position at that time as a zonal secretary of the Petroleum Trust Fund. And she was given a sum of money that was no longer needed in its entirety. And she returned the money. This money was signed off already. It was in her account. And she came back from Nigeria, reported that the surgery wasn't needed, and gave the money back. The president was looking for someone to head the food equivalent of the Food and Drugs of Nigeria. It's called NAFDAC, National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. And he was looking for an honest person. And he heard the story of this woman, this story that is so unheard of, that returned money. No one had to know about it. It was the most obvious thing not to return it. But she did the less obvious thing, always being true to her truth. And she returned the money. The president gave her a call. She was sitting at home, a civil servant, lecturer, nobody.
She was a pharmacist.
She was a lecturing in the university as a
Right.
pharmacist and working in a position that was really giving her the leadership training that unknown to her would be so useful moving forward. But she was just a regular woman. She got a call from the president and doubted that it was even the president, and the rest is history. She, after a lot of struggles, because people didn't want her to have the role because such a powerful one, and she was nobody, but the president backed her, said, I need someone honest, and this woman is it. And the story goes that she not only took on the role and excelled, she made NAFDAC to what it is today, because it was an unknown regulatory agency, because there was no regulation going on. And if you can imagine, Nigeria is a massive market, 180 million now, right? Think of the amount, when there's no regulation, how much and how profitable the pharmaceutical industry is. Just think of how incredibly lucrative it is to dump fake drugs, and expired drugs are massive, or about to expire, or mixed with just sort of 50% less than the active ingredients. There's just so many layers of what fake looks and is like, that there's no incentive for any pharmaceutical company to send the original, because why? Right?
No one's really monitoring.
No one is monitoring. Right. So you can dump everything that didn't work, there was a mistake in the mixture, all of that. And even you would think it's just a China-India problem, but Nestle was a big company she took on, because they dumped, I think, expired baby food, if I remember correctly, something along those lines, right? And they had mislabeled the expiry date because nobody would die. But it's just, it's like, how do you play with the gray area enough that people are dying, and people were dying in the thousands and millions? Because when you're diabetic, like her sister was, and taking fake insulin, then you would die, which her sister did. When you have...
I watched an interview where your mother spoke about that, and she was talking about the fact that it wasn't even insulin, it was water.
Yeah.
And she said at least they could have, it wasn't even distilled or purified water. It was tap water that they were putting in bottles and selling to people.
And this was in the 80s. Wow. So think how pervasive this problem was. No regulation in a country which is like the market is there and the world is dumping, it has a port, what have you. So it was a massive issue. The drips that you're getting, just water, right? That's, as you said, it's like not even pure water, it's dirty water. The water you're drinking, just bottled in people's backyards. Everything, food and drugs is a massive space to impact lives. And she did that. She came in and she worked. She worked hard. There were assassination attempts on her life because she was curbing a very lucrative market for people that had been making millions over many, many years. And I
heard too that there was an attempted kidnapping of your brother.
Correct. And that's the story.
And yet she continued.
She continued, and it was never an option for her to give up, even when everybody else thought the only sane thing to do is to stop, because your name is not Nigeria. These are not your kids. This is like, take care of yourself. And that was not her DNA. Incidentally, her initials is DNA. So it's a nice play on words. So she was an incredible woman, and I'm so drawn to tell this story because she's an African woman. She's an Igbo woman. She's a Nigerian woman. She's a woman. And the only thing special about her was that she was true to herself and true to her purpose and true to her calling, and just never for a day doubted that with that strength of conviction, she ever had to go the distance alone. She always would have the support that she needed to do that work because it was her calling. So there was just a lot to learn from that. And
what do you think what is the greatest lesson you learned from your mother?
Never leave anything for tomorrow. It's like her thing. And it's incredible how powerful it was. She never left anything that she needed to do for tomorrow. And it doesn't mean kill yourself. It just means if you can do it, get it done. And she had a superhuman speed to her. And she was extremely efficient because she just got it done. So I learned that power of just like, it needs to be done, do it. And so she was not only driven and ethical, she was also someone that just got things done. And I learned that. I learned just the power of that drive and seeing it through. So it's like the thing that's driving at you, it's not every detail. Things that you know you need to do it because there's a reason that you need to do it. And the faster you do it, the better you can connect to the next thing you're meant to do. And that's just how she moved. So I learned that from her, and I learned the power of just being yourself. She was the most realest person you've ever met. She could be like the most bush village woman ever, the most sophisticated diplomat, just like chilling with you, laughing mom, brother, sister. So many people felt like they knew her as a bosom friend, even though they might have just been acquaintances, because she could relate to people. She saw people and she opened herself up to them, and vice versa. So I learned a lot, just that truth of be you, and people see that and they connect to it and don't try to be anything more or less.
What do you think she would say to the woman that I'm looking at?
I think she would say, well done. I know she would say, well done. I think this book journey, I feel like I'm on it with her. It's been interesting. I dreamt about her last night because I'm every day with my mom and writing and thinking about her story. And so I feel like it's not even she would say, I feel she speaks to me in that way. And the message is like, I'm with you in this journey and you're never alone. And I have that message from my grandmother, my great-grandmother, because they're all part of her, and I'm very much connected now to how we're all part of each other. And there's no separation. So if I can tell myself, well done, it's what my mother is telling me. So it becomes, how do I listen to the truth of the things that I'm doing well, and at the same time, listen to the truth of the things I could do better, and just be with all of that, all those voices and all those inspirations. So yeah, well done, Chidiogo. And keep going, keep at it, yeah.
What are you most proud of that you've achieved so far?
I think we're sitting on it. I've just loved exploring my creative side. I never knew I was creative. I remember the first time someone told me I was creative was when I was living in Lagos. And they're like, you're creative. It's like, me, no. My sister is an artist, right? I'm the diplomat. It was one time my brother was trying to introduce me and he didn't know what to call me because everybody's doctor, doctor, artist, diplomat. Yes. So I've just been the random one traveling the world and who knows what I'm doing. So I'm just super proud of dancing to the beat of my own drum, and at the same time it's life's drum beating and I'm listening and I'm dancing to it, and it's a creative expression in itself because I write now, which was really tuning into a calling, and I write for myself a lot. I wake up in the morning and I do a lot of personal writing, and I'm really proud of that discipline for my spirit and my mind. I'm really proud of the discipline of being fit in my body. I'm really proud of the discipline of connecting to my spirit. I have a deep belief in mind, body, spirit balance, and this is everything comes from it. So the creativity, the creation is the balance really of mind, body, spirit. And I'm proud whenever I can see that balance manifest or the imbalance manifest. And I can tune in and I can fine tune whatever that looks like So I'm really proud of tuning in and of being aware of all the things that make me who I am and all the ways I can be truth to that person.
I want to know. So one of the things you quoted something that your mother said about the fact that, and I'm going to paraphrase it, where she said, "A society grows where great old men plant trees whose shade they will never sit under."
Yeah.
What is the tree that you want to plant that you want others to sit under?
Stories. The stories I tell of the experiences that we're all having. The stories I share of my own experiences in this journey of evolving colors. The stories I tell of my mom and her great great legacy and that life and what formed it and how it inspires and the life that inspired so many, but it can keep inspiring so many more, because we need inspirations that look like ourselves as Black women, and stories of the work that we under the platform of She Roars do with women, and how the women themselves tell their own stories through this platform is a dream. So stories that give hope, that inspire, that hold a mirror to people, that because there's nothing more powerful than being seen and to see yourself. That word that's being used a lot is a representation, maybe, right? I just saw Crazy Rich Asians, and that I really delved into the dialogue on, because there's Black Panther, there's Crazy Rich Asians, and that it's the same. We want to see ourselves and be seen and be represented, because stories matter. So people tell your stories is so disempowering. So how can you tell stories of who you are? And I know that's a passion we share. So yeah, the tree for me is the stories that we live on. Look at the Iliad, we're the master storytellers, Africans, come from storytelling traditions and foundations, and at the heart is our language even there's such a capacity for storytelling. Our language plus stories, our documentation. So how do we tap into that and such a powerful instrument for every human, stories, and use that in transforming mindsets, people's beliefs of themselves, beliefs and limiting beliefs that shape the world around us.
It has been. We need to do this again.
Oh, yeah.
Because this has been way too much fun. Where can people find you and find more information about She Roars?
You can find more information on She Roars on sheroarsafrica.org, sheroarsafrica.org, Instagram at She Roars Africa. On me, I'm Chidiogo _OO. So it's like a Chidiogo, you find me. And what else am I on? My website where I write is chidiogo.com, chidiogo.org. I'm on both. I found that last year. It was still available.
It was still available?
Can you imagine? Yeah, it was
really?
2 years ago. So I'm on chidiogo.org, chidiogo.com. And from there, you can find everything else. Yeah. It's been such a pleasure.
You're awesome. I have one last question for you, though.
Yeah.
So this platform is called Ndini, which in my mother tongue, so that's another language you need to learn,
Okay.
Shona, my mother tongue. And in my mother tongue, Ndini means I am. So finish that sentence for me. I am.
Because you are, and you are because we are.